I'm going to make a video for you all today, kind of continuing the theme on how to help people at lower gear levels really do well on territory battles. So want to go ahead and give you guys my squads of choice, my combat score, especially relative to my galactic power, is actually really high. I'm doing more than a lot of guys that have substantially higher galactic power. So the first and best squad is resistance. Now, resistance requires just frankly some practice. The strategy and how to play with them is very different, but they are incredibly viable at lower gear levels. So you're going to have the Zeta on Finn. If you also have the number crunch Zeta on R2, he's going to boost everybody else, and that's a huge help. But the key to doing well with resistance is first and foremost modding, and I'll record them kind of in action, but the primary key to making this work is Poe. If you have Poe set up right, everything else falls into place. Now, you're going to want to get Poe's potency up to as high as you can. But the most important thing, especially if you have R2 on the squad, is speed. As long as Poe is fast and his potency is reasonable enough, then this squad is just an absolute breeze. You'll find that even on Phase 6, which can destroy Gear 12 Rogue One squads with Tarutan Bays, and your Rebels and everything else just get obliterated. I make it through Phase 6 on territory battles and the combat missions without really even losing any protection, unless I just get really unlucky. In point of fact, my guys are fast enough and the potency is high enough that I don't even need to use R2. Now, if you are struggling or getting resisted just all the time, throwing R2 in there is kind of like having an extra set of mods on your guys, because his number crunch Zeta is going to boost the potency for the rest of your squad by about 10%, and that really helps. But with Poe, you want to try and get a potency set on him, and of course, you just need to make him fast. Now, the Holy Trinity is Finn with a Zeta, Poe, and Resistance Trooper. Resistance Trooper actually doesn't need any speed. All right, if you look at his uniques, he's going to get, plus 10% potency just from maxing that out, which obviously helps. And he gets 55% turn meter whenever an enemy becomes exposed. If you'll see where I'm at, I've got him at 142, and that's actually mostly by accident. I went for just secondaries with high potency and with high offense and protection. Critical damage, of course, really helps. But you'll see here, I don't even have a speed mod on him. I've got offense mods and potency. That's it. Now, frankly, my potency with him is actually a bit of overkill. At 86%, plus you look at his unique at an extra 10%, that's way more than he actually needs. But yeah, with Resistance Trooper, because of his uniques, you do not need potency, you don't need speed. All you need is potency. The other thing is, if you Omega, it's not required, but if you do Omega his Opportune Strike, it will allow you to dispel if they have taunt. And of course, if you're attacking certain guys, that can become very, very beneficial, especially if they aren't exposed. On Finn, and this is where it's kind of tricky, this is really nice to have because it's going to reduce the cooldown, but also, most importantly, it will allow you to cleanse your squad. He is the really only cleanse that you have. I see a lot of people that are new to resistance completely ignore this abilities, but especially given how many debuffs the enemy team will put on you, whether it's target lock or ability block, whatever. Don't forget to hold the line on Finn. If you get a bunch of guys that have a bunch of debuffs, that can be an absolute lifesaver. This, of course, is really the key and what makes resistance work so well. Having the extra 35% turn meter anytime someone attacks someone with exposed. So go back to Resistance Trooper. He gets 55% turn meter if someone is even exposed, period. So if you've got 2 enemies getting exposed when Poe uses his taunt, he's automatically going to get 100% turn meter. But if someone gets exposed, just one person, he's going to get 55%. If someone else attacks that person, then it's going to give him an extra 35%. That's why you do not need speed on Resistance Trooper. You just need potency. Finn, frankly, you don't need any speed on to make it work. It helps if you get really bad RNG to have some speed on him. Ideally, you get him up around the 205 to 215 space, but I mean, again, I can make it all the way through phase 6 virtually untouched, and mine is only at 191. I don't even have critical damage on him. Frankly, I probably should, just to make it go a little quicker, but yeah, potency, that's all that you really need. You can see that I have mine at 70. That tends to work really well. And of course, you'll want to use his special, which not only exposes, it also stuns. That is really, really great. So also, one thing to keep in mind, sorry, that's this one. One thing to keep in mind, if your Poe does get down a little bit in health, not only does this cleanse, it also gives Poe heal over time for 2 turns. Now remember, anytime you attack someone with exposed, it's going to reset all your cooldowns or knock down their cooldowns by 1. I've had situations actually in the heroic tank where like on phase 3, Poe gets down to almost nothing. And again, these guys are going all the time. Instead of having Finn use his special where he's stunning and exposing, I'll actually just have him continuously use this hold the line, and you'll see Poe get like 5 heal over times, and literally within 1 or 2 turns he's right back up again at full health. So again, the strategy with resistance is a little bit different, but do not ignore the cleanse slash heal over time on your 2 tanks. That'll help bail you out of some tricky situations. Ray is going to be your big damage per second. These are fantastic. Plus 15% on a lot of damage is really, really great. As you can see here, I don't even have really good mods on her. I've got an offense mod, critical damage, that's it. I'm not using anything really fancy or fantastic on her just because you really don't need it. Frankly, I know a lot of guys that'll use her at like 140, 150 speed, and they still blow right through it because, again, with this squad, it's just all about that turn meter from exposing and attacking people that are exposed. Typically speaking, I'll either actually deploy my R2 or I'll use him with one of my Rebel squads. I actually will throw someone like Luminara or Ewok Elder, even on phase 6. Having Ewok Elder is there just as kind of a backstop in case everything just goes absolutely to hell. Ewok Elder will give everybody turn meter with his basic. He can cleanse, he can heal, and he can revive. So I have yet to lose a single battle or even a single character in territory battles in the 3 or 4 that we've done. I think we're on the 4th one now. It's been, these guys are the MVPs. Secondly, and I've been making some videos on this, the Phoenix squad, you can see my gear level. I've got Ezra and Hera at gear 10. I've got Kanan, Chopper, and Zeb at gear 8, and I do not have good mods on them. But if you want to check out the other videos that I've done, they are virtually indestructible. The Thrawn event we know is coming back again here in October. They posted that on the forums or in the update. Well, sorry, they indirectly posted it that a team and an enemy will rise. And given that they're the Phoenix squad, it was pretty clear what they were hinting at. So you're going to want your Phoenix squad geared up enough to be able to do that anyways, because let's face it, after CLS, Thrawn is probably the best character in the game, or the second best character in the game. There can be some debate, but no one can question that he's not just amazing. So you're going to want to gear up your Phoenix squad one way or the other, and I'm telling you, my first time trying them just experimentally before I really knew what I was doing with this crew, I made it through the first 5 phases using them as one of my combat squads, and out of 30 total combat phases, I got 29 out of 30, and it should have been a perfect score, but I kind of screwed up the order of attacks, and I'm going to redo a video on phase 5 again, just kind of showing how they can work with, slightly less crappy mods, but still not good. Now, Sabine and Ezra are the big damage per second guys on this crew. I actually ignore Sabine. She's just really squishy, and when they're doing all those AoE attacks later on, in the later phases, it can just absolutely wipe you out if you're not careful, or if you happen to not have a taunt up at that time. So I use Chopper, and having their uniques omega'd, because Hera allows them all to share each other's uniques, it's absolutely critical. So everyone on the squad at the start of their turn is going to recover 15% health. That's why I use Chopper. First and foremost, that is just absolutely fantastic. That anytime someone takes a turn, if you can just get enough speed on them and that they're going frequently enough for some of the squishier characters, it's just awesome. What's more, whenever he is damaged by an attack, he gains 15% protection up if he doesn't have protection up. So think about that. Even when it's their turn, they're going to get 15% health. If they get attacked, they're going to get 15% protection. Not having Sabine means the battles are going to take a lot longer, but getting 15% health and protection every turn, well, look at it this way. Leia has a Zeta where she recovers 5 to 15% health and protection every turn, but only 5% of that is guaranteed. You need RNG to get the rest. With him, it only requires an Omega. It's absolutely fantastic. What's more, his basic attack will, again, it's not Omega'd, it'll give buffs to the other members of your squad and has a 50% chance to reduce their cooldowns by 1. That is just wonderful. His taunt, it's there as a backdrop just in case you get in trouble. It's a nice thing to have. He also has high evasion, so hopefully he doesn't get wiped out. But at the lower gear levels, he's pretty squishy, so this is kind of a break open in case of emergency kind of thing. But this one, on the other hand, is actually pretty fantastic. Dispel all buffs on target enemy. For each buff dispelled, all enemies lose 10% turn meter. Now, when you're going through territory battles, we've all seen it by now where they'll kind of get on this chain where they're just all buffing each other repeatedly and going back and forth, and by the time the turn is over, they'll have 4 or 5 different buffs. You can use Chopper's special Metal Menace to basically remove 30, 40, 50% turn meter from the entire enemy squad. That is absolutely incredible. Turn meter manipulation is one of the single biggest keys to this game. If you're wanting to boost your combat score, think about the characters that will allow you to control the turn meter of the enemy, and that's where Chopper comes in. So Sabine is great at damage. She boosts critical chance and critical damage for the entire squad, but I use Chopper because from a survivability standpoint, between the health, the protection, the turn meter removal, and having a backup taunt, I've had a lot more success. Kanan, of course, if you have him Omega'd out, your whole squad is going to have a 70% counter chance. And anytime they're debuffed, they're going to recover 25% health. So think about it this way. If they use the airstrike ability, where they are attacking your entire squad and putting ability block on you, that is damage, and that is a debuff. So between Kanan and Chopper, when they do that, your whole squad is going to recover 25% health and 15% protection. That's just insane. You also have Hera. This is what allows everybody to share abilities. And then Ezra's, this one is probably, I would put it, the least importance. Everyone's going to get offense stacking. So by the time you get to the latter phases, it certainly adds up a little bit, getting some extra offense. But if you're looking for survivability, that would be the last one that I look at. The other one, let me get my Rebel squad pulled up here, and then I'll do a video tomorrow showing these guys in action. I have been experimenting with some different Rebel squads. Everyone knows that a wedge lead with Biggs, Lando, that's a really great squad. You either need to be able to completely control the enemy through stuns and turn meter manipulation, or you need to be able to just absolutely nuke the opposing squads. So Wedge, Big, Lando is a great combination. The other two that I see people kind of miss out on, CLS squads tend to actually be lacking in that regard. Han, since the rework, I actually do not have his Zeta yet. I very, very much want it. But he's going to start off every battle stunning one of the enemy opponents. He also has on his Deadeye the ability to stun another enemy, and then his turn meter bar is going to fill between 50 and 100% of the way back up, depending on his critical chance, and he's going to be able to attack yet again. So the battle on each of the 6 phases will start off with Han stunning somebody. Then you have, if R2 on your squad can come in and stun somebody else. Then CLS can come in and remove turn meter and put debuffs on the enemy, which, by the way, if he attacks that person again, it's also going to stun. So Han stuns, R2 stuns, Luke completely removes turn meter. By then, Han is probably going again. He gets to stun another guy, and then when he uses his basic, he is going to be removing turn meter yet again if they have more than 50% turn meter. So even without the Zeta, the only thing that sucks with Han is you've got to get him to higher gear levels, because he can get annihilated just really, really fast. But yeah, I've been trying to play around with some different squads to allow me to deploy more of my guys, which is part of the reason I'm using Phoenix so much. Again, we're going to need him for the Thrawn event anyways, but this guy is kind of my MVP, or a guy that I don't see enough people using. Now, if you look, mine's at gear 9. He needs 1 Carbanti, 2 Carbantis, a stun gun, which also includes a Carbanti. He needs the Mark V droid collar, a stun cuff, and another Carbanti. He is expensive as hell to get from gear 9 to gear 10. He and General Kenobi both are just monsters. So a lot of people know this, so they just kind of ignore him. Here's the thing though, to get him to gear 9, it requires only 1 Carbanti, no fusion furnaces, no hypo syringes, no stun cuffs, no stun guns. You need 1 Carbanti. That's the only piece of gear that everybody is looking for that you'll miss in order to get him to gear 9. At that level, and again, I do not have him modded great. I was playing around with him in Arena a little bit, but he has really high health and protection, especially relative to his gear level, even with crappy gear. But he also has really high armor. He has one of the highest armors in the game. So even if you have other tanks that have higher health and protection, he's actually going to be a hell of a lot more durable because he has so much armor. It's just going to be reducing the amount of damage that he's actually taking. But here is where he's really key, guys. Number 1, as I mentioned earlier, turn meter manipulation is absolutely key. I do not have this Omega. I may actually do that as we get later in this particular one. Inflict ability block on all enemies for 1 turn, offense down for 2 turns, and an 80% chance to remove 60% turn meter. And then, of course, Jedi and Rebel allies get 3% turn meter for everyone that actually resists his special abilities. And if you're going against 6 different enemies, which you are in territory battles, you're going to be applying a total of 12 debuffs. So if they are resisting, you're either removing turn meter and adding ability block to them, or you're boosting the turn meter of your entire squad. That's a win-win either way. But having him on your team, having that mind trick ability is absolutely fantastic, and I promise you it will increase the survivability of your squads and let you do more combat missions, because as you're getting towards the end of all the rest of your guys going, since he will likely be your slowest guy, you can just absolutely nuke the other team from the turn meter and ability block standpoint and basically neutralize them for an extra turn. And then of course he also has a taunt. That's incredibly valuable, and he is tough, he is tanky, but if they do happen to kill him off, then oops, they're going to buff the hell out of your entire squad and give you turn meter, offense up, health up, protection up. He's one of the few tanks in the game that it actually benefits you if they do take him out, and they very likely will as you get on the latter phases. So old Ben, and then an oldie but a goodie, Stormtrooper Han. He has a 25% chance to remove 30% turn meter from each enemy at the start of his turns. He also has a 25% chance to remove 10% from the enemy whenever he's damaged. And of course, he taunts, and Han taunts for 3 turns, and all allies gain 30% turn meter. Again, turn meter manipulation is key to this. So your whole team gets 30% turn meter, and of course anytime someone attacks him specifically, or of course included in that would be the AoEs, he's just going to be boosting your squad right back up. So if you are struggling, Stormtrooper Han is a guy that was absolutely defining the meta for a while. Then with Nihilus and all the dispels, he's pretty much disappeared completely. For territory battles, it's time to dust him off, pull him off the shelf, and put him back into your squads, because he's really valuable. He and old Ben, get old Ben up to gear 9. I promise you, you will not regret it. He's got a great fit in your squads. So I will be putting a video together tomorrow showing these guys in action. I'm actually working on Ahsoka Fulcrum right now, because she also is really tanky. And having tanky characters in this game, I like her under a CLS lead so she can counter. It's really nice to have. So hopefully this gives you guys some ideas. Happy hunting and good luck.